Greetings and welcome to Cosmic Facts. This evening, our exploration turns inward, into the concealed terrain within your own skull, the human brain. It's smaller than a melon, soft as custard, and yet somehow it contains your recollections, your creativity, and the glimmering strand of your identity. Scientists have discovered that the brain can forecast the future before events materialize, that it occasionally fabricates entire narratives to bridge memory gaps, and that a single thought leaves a physical imprint behind. Inside its convolutions and networks so extensive they rival the stars in our galaxy. It is at once familiar and astonishing, a universe compressed into 3 pounds of tissue. If you enjoy these gentle explorations, consider liking and subscribing, or share a reflection in the comments. It helps others discover their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, you don't need to do anything at all. Just settle in. Let your shoulders release their tension and let your breathing fall into a slower rhythm. Now, if you're ready, let's begin. The brain predicts the future a few seconds ahead of reality. Your brain is not merely a passive receiver of the present moment. It is a prediction machine. Every fraction of a second, your brain constructs a model of what it expects will happen next, anticipating sounds, movements, and even the words you're about to hear. In fact, brain scans demonstrate that activity often rises in anticipation of an event before the senses actually register it. This predictive coding helps you catch a ball, understand speech even in noisy rooms, or step out of the way of danger almost instantly. Without this ability, life would feel disjointed, as if reality were arriving in jagged frames. Instead, your brain smooths out the world, always leaning a heartbeat into the future, ensuring that your experience feels seamless, continuous, and alive. Scientists have reconstructed images directly from brain signals. One of the most astonishing frontiers of neuroscience is the ability to peer into the mind and reconstruct its contents using functional MRI scans and artificial intelligence. Researchers have successfully rebuilt rough images of what people are looking at, shapes, faces, even simple movie clips, using nothing but patterns of brain activity. While the results are blurry, they capture enough detail to be recognizable, suggesting that thoughts and perceptions leave measurable fingerprints in neural activity. This technology opens both exciting and unsettling possibilities. Perhaps one day we may be able to record dreams, visualize memories, or even share inner experiences in ways that today feel like science fiction. For now, these experiments reveal something breathtaking, that the private theater of the mind, long hidden from the outside world, can be glimpsed through the shimmering electrical language of the brain. Your brain can trick you into seeing things that aren't there. Perception is not simply a mirror of reality. Sometimes your brain invents details, colors, or patterns that don't exist in the world around you. Classic optical illusions are a gentle demonstration of this, showing how lines can look longer, colors can seem brighter, or shapes can appear to move when nothing is happening. But the effect runs deeper. In moments of sensory deprivation, stress, or illness, the brain can generate full-fledged hallucinations, sounds, sights, even entire scenes that feel real. This happens because your brain is always trying to interpret incomplete information, filling in gaps with its best guess. Most of the time, this makes perception smooth and useful. Occasionally, However, it overshoots, creating a phantom where none exists. It is a humbling reminder that what we call reality is always filtered and reconstructed inside the theater of the mind. People with split brains sometimes act as if two minds share one body. In rare medical cases where the connection between the two hemispheres of the brain, the corpus callosum, is severed, something astonishing can happen. Each hemisphere begins to act with a degree of independence, as if two consciousnesses are sharing the same body. One hand may reach for a shirt while the other hand pushes it away. A person may verbally deny seeing an object presented to one eye while their other hand nonetheless points directly to it. These split brain studies reveal that the left and right hemispheres specialize in different functions, and that our sense of a unified self is a delicate construction. Beneath the seamless unity we feel, the brain is actually a federation of processes. Sever the links between them, and the hidden multiplicity of the mind emerges, showing us how fragile the illusion of singular identity really is. The brain sometimes creates entirely fake stories to explain gaps. Your brain hates uncertainty. When something doesn't make sense, it will often invent an explanation, and you may believe it without question. This phenomenon, known as confabulation, happens when the brain fills memory gaps or explains actions in ways that feel coherent but are actually false. For example, patients with certain brain injuries might insist they've eaten breakfast when they haven't, or confidently explain why they chose an object even though the real reason was hidden from their awareness. Confabulation isn't lying. It's the brain's way of preserving a continuous narrative of self. And it doesn't only occur in cases of brain damage. Everyday memory works the same way, smoothing over errors and stitching fragments into seamless stories. Much of what you think of as memory is not a perfect record, but a careful fiction crafted by the mind. Some people can remember every day of their lives in detail. For most of us, memory is selective and hazy, with yesterday blending into the week before. But a handful of people possess an extraordinary gift, highly superior autobiographical memory, or HSAM. These individuals can recall the weather, conversations, and even what they ate on any given day of their lives, stretching back decades. Ask them about a random date, and they can tell you the day of the week, what news was happening, and what they were wearing. Brain scans suggest that their memory networks are unusually active and densely connected, though scientists still don't fully understand why. Interestingly, this gift can feel like a burden. The inability to forget means reliving painful experiences as vividly as joyful ones. Their minds act like living archives, preserving a detailed, ceaseless timeline of existence, a reminder of how astonishingly variable human memory can be. The brain generates enough electricity to light a small bulb. Though your brain runs on chemistry and biology, it is also an electrical powerhouse. At any given moment, billions of neurons are firing, sending signals across tiny gaps using quick jolts of electricity. The combined voltage of this buzzing network is enough to light a small LED bulb, around 20 watts. It's a humbling comparison. Inside your skull, thoughts, memories, and emotions all depend on faint currents flickering across tissue softer than tofu. The brain's electrical nature also makes it readable by machines. Technologies like EEG capture the faint rhythms of brain waves, turning invisible activity into measurable patterns. These patterns reveal when you are awake, dreaming, or deeply asleep. The idea that the seat of your mind, the place where you live, is also a living electrical field, glowing faintly with energy, is both haunting and beautiful. Your brain is more active at night than during the day. You might think that sleep is a time when the brain powers down, but the opposite is true. In many stages of sleep, particularly during rapid eye movement, REM, the brain is buzzing with activity. In some regions, even more than when you are awake. Neurons fire in patterns that consolidate memories, process emotions, and weave together the strange imagery we call dreams. This hidden activity is why you often wake with solutions to problems, flashes of creativity, or a lighter emotional burden. While the body rests, the brain runs its nightly workshop, sorting, repairing, and reshaping the mind. To outside observers, you appear still, even unconscious. But inside your head, a universe of activity unfolds, carrying you across the landscapes of memory and imagination. In its busiest hours, the sleeping brain is quietly hard at work, reinventing you for the morning to come. Blind brains can repurpose the visual cortex for touch and sound. When someone is blind, especially from birth, the brain does not let the unused visual cortex lie dormant. Instead, it recruits that vast territory of neurons for other senses, amplifying touch, sound, and even smell. This rewiring explains why blind individuals often develop extraordinary abilities, such as reading Braille with incredible speed or identifying subtle sounds that sighted people would miss. Brain scans show that their visual cortex lights up when their fingers trace patterns or when they navigate by sound. This remarkable adaptability, called neuroplasticity, reveals that the brain is not rigidly hardwired but astonishingly flexible, ready to reorganize itself depending on the body's needs. It suggests that hidden within every brain is untapped potential, waiting to be awakened if circumstances demand. The brain is not a fixed map, but a living, evolving landscape capable of rewriting itself. People who lose one sense often develop superhuman abilities in another. When one doorway to the world closes, others can grow wide open. People who lose hearing may develop heightened vision, detecting flickers of movement with uncanny sensitivity. Those who lose sight may notice faint textures or sounds with astonishing precision. This phenomenon is not just poetic but measurable. The brain reallocates its resources, expanding the regions devoted to the remaining senses. In some cases, the abilities seem almost superhuman, like identifying people by footsteps alone or navigating spaces using subtle echoes. These adaptations show that the brain is always searching for balance, recalibrating itself to maximize survival and perception. It reminds us that human potential is deeply elastic. Hidden capabilities lie dormant, waiting for the brain's remarkable flexibility to bring them forth. In every mind lives a silent promise, the power to change, adapt, and evolve in ways that defy expectation. Some people see sounds or hear colors through synesthesia. For most of us, senses remain separate. We hear music, see colors, taste food. But for people with synesthesia, the boundaries blur. A sound might be tinged with color, letters might appear shaded with hues, or numbers might carry textures and personalities. To them, The world is enriched with cross-sensory overlays that feel entirely natural. Scientists believe this happens when neural pathways between sensory regions are unusually connected, allowing signals to blend. Some synesthetes report tasting shapes or feeling the texture of sounds. This rare phenomenon is not just a curiosity. It can boost memory and creativity since stimuli become multi-layered and unforgettable. Famous artists, composers, and writers have described experiencing it, hinting that synesthesia may have fueled some of humanity's most brilliant expressions. It is a reminder that perception is not fixed but deeply individual. Each brain paints its own version of reality. The brain can adapt to seeing the world upside down. Imagine wearing special goggles that flip the world completely upside down. At first, everything feels impossible. Walking, reaching, even pouring water. But after days or weeks, the brain begins to adapt. Astonishingly, it can rewire perception so thoroughly that the inverted world feels normal. When the goggles are removed, the adjustment flips again, and ordinary vision can feel bizarrely reversed until the brain recalibrates. This experiment, performed in various forms for over a century, demonstrates the brain's profound plasticity, its ability to remap sensory input to fit reality. It means that perception isn't simply about the eyes. It's about how the brain interprets and organizes the information. Reality is flexible, stitched together in whatever way the mind can make sense of it. The fact that the world can literally turn upside down and then feel right again is proof of just how adaptable the brain truly is. The brain creates a constant stream of predictions about what happens next. Your brain is not just reacting, it is constantly guessing. Every sound, every movement, every glance is met with predictions about what should come next. When someone speaks, your brain anticipates the end of their sentence before the words arrive. When you walk through a familiar room in the dark, your mind sketches out where objects should be. This predictive coding smooths reality, allowing you to navigate without feeling constant surprise. Sometimes the predictions misfire, as in optical illusions, where expectation overrides truth. But most of the time, they save you milliseconds, and those fractions of a second can mean survival. The brain's ceaseless forecasting makes experience feel continuous, as if reality flows rather than lurches. In a way, you are always living slightly ahead of the moment, your mind leaning into what has not yet come, blurring present and future into a seamless dream. People can have out-of-body experiences triggered by brain stimulation. Some people describe the eerie sensation of floating above their body, watching themselves from outside. Mystics have written about it for centuries, but neuroscience has discovered that the sensation can sometimes be induced artificially. Electrical stimulation of the temporoparietal junction, a region that helps integrate vision, balance, and body awareness, can cause patients to feel as if they are leaving their body even when they are lying still. This suggests that our sense of being inside ourselves is a construction of the brain, woven from sensory inputs. When those signals misalign, the self can feel displaced. While such experiences remain deeply mysterious and often profound, they point to a simple truth. Even the most intimate feeling of being you is carefully generated by the brain, and it can shift, unravel, or transform under the right conditions. Identity itself is a fragile illusion of neural balance. Electrical brain stimulation can make people laugh against their will. During neurosurgery, doctors sometimes apply tiny electrical currents to brain tissue to map its functions. In rare cases, when certain regions are stimulated, patients suddenly burst into uncontrollable laughter. They are aware of the strangeness but cannot stop, often describing the moment as inexplicably funny, even if nothing humorous is happening. Similarly, other stimulations can bring tears, fear, or a flood of memories. These discoveries show how emotions, which feel so personal and profound, can be switched on like lights when the right circuits are triggered. It doesn't make emotions any less real, but it reveals that joy, sorrow, all are rooted in precise biological machinery. The idea that laughter, that purest expression of delight, can be summoned by a gentle zap of electricity is at once unsettling and wondrous, blurring the line between the mechanical and the deeply human. A rare brain lesion made a man believe his parents were imposters. In a strange neurological condition known as Capgras delusion, patients recognize the faces of loved ones but insist they are imposters. One man, after a brain injury, looked at his parents and believed they had been replaced by convincing doubles. Scientists think this happens because the visual recognition pathway to the emotional centers of the brain is disrupted. The face is seen and identified, but it fails to trigger the familiar warmth of emotional response. The mismatch convinces the mind that something sinister has occurred. Cases like this reveal how fragile the links are between recognition, memory, and feeling. To the person affected, the delusion is utterly real, a terrifying fracture in the fabric of trust. It shows that our sense of reality, and even the bonds of family, depend on the seamless cooperation of circuits hidden deep within the brain. Damage to a single brain area once made a woman unable to feel fear. In one extraordinary case, a woman with damage to her amygdala, the almond-shaped structure central to processing fear, became nearly fearless. She could handle snakes and spiders, wander dark alleys alone, and watch horror movies without flinching. While this might sound liberating, fear is a survival tool, guiding us away from danger. Without it, she was more vulnerable to real threats. The case gave neuroscientists profound insight into how emotions are localized and how specific brain regions sculpt our inner lives. Fear, often experienced as a vague sense of dread, is in fact anchored in physical structures. When those structures are compromised, the emotion can vanish. It demonstrates both the power and the fragility of our biology, that something as primal and universal as fear can be erased by the smallest lesion in the brain's intricate circuitry. The brain can react to danger before you're even aware of it. Imagine stepping off a curb and jerking back as a car rushes by, only later realizing what happened. This speed comes from pathways in the brain that bypass conscious thought. Visual information can travel directly to the amygdala, triggering a cascade of fight or flight responses before you have time to think. Your heart races, your muscles tense, and you leap to safety in under half a second. Conscious awareness catches up only afterward, stitching a story around the reflex. These hidden circuits prove that survival depends on reaction times far faster than deliberate thought allows. It also shows that your experience of life is always slightly delayed, with unconscious processes guiding you first. In this way, the brain is both protector and storyteller, acting in your defense, then filling in the narrative so that it feels like you are fully in control. Einstein's brain had unusual folds and connections. After Albert Einstein's death, his brain was preserved and studied, revealing unusual features. The parietal lobes, linked to spatial reasoning and mathematics, were notably enlarged, and certain regions showed unique folds and patterns unseen in most people. His corpus callosum, the bridge connecting the two hemispheres, appeared thicker, suggesting enhanced communication between different brain areas. While no single feature explains his genius, the differences hint at a biological foundation for his extraordinary imagination. Yet Einstein himself emphasized curiosity, persistence, and playfulness as the true engines of discovery. His brain reminds us that structure matters, but the mind's brilliance also grows from habits of thought, wonder, and relentless exploration. It is a blend of nature and nurture, the physical canvas of the brain shaped by the creative strokes of a lifetime of inquiry and dreaming. London taxi drivers grow larger brain regions for navigation. To qualify as a London taxi driver, one must memorize the knowledge, thousands of streets and landmarks across the city. Brain scans have shown that these drivers develop enlarged hippocampi, the brain's navigation centers. The more years spent navigating, the larger this region becomes, a clear demonstration that experience reshapes anatomy. This discovery was one of the first to show neuroplasticity in adults at such a striking scale. It means the brain isn't fixed after childhood but continues to mold itself in response to challenge and practice. Whether learning music, language, or maps of a city, the brain lays down new structures to meet new demands. For the drivers, this adaptation becomes a living atlas etched into neural tissue. Their minds carry a miniature London within them, a testament to the way effort sculpts the very architecture of the brain. Music can reshape the brain more than almost any other activity. When you play an instrument, your brain engages nearly every major region at once. Motor areas control your fingers. Auditory regions process the sounds. And emotional centers respond to melody and harmony. Over time, this full brain workout leaves a physical imprint. Studies show that musicians often have larger corpus callosums, the bundle of fibers connecting both hemispheres, allowing for faster communication across the brain. Regions involved in hearing, memory, and motor coordination also grow denser and more active. Even simply listening to music can strengthen neural connections, enhancing mood regulation and memory. It is no wonder that music therapy is used to support stroke recovery and emotional healing. Music is not just entertainment. It is a form of structured sound that sculpts the brain, rewiring circuits and leaving behind echoes of rhythm and harmony woven into the very architecture of the mind. Creativity lights up different circuits than logical thinking. Logic and creativity often feel like opposites, yet both rely on the brain's remarkable networks. When you solve a math problem, the brain's executive and analytical circuits take charge, emphasizing order and precision. But when you paint, write, or improvise, entirely different circuits spark to life, especially in the default mode network and associative areas that link distant concepts. Brain scans show that creative thought involves unusual patterns of connectivity, a kind of neural jazz session where unexpected regions play together. Interestingly, the most creative moments often occur when analytical areas quiet down, allowing looser, freer associations. This balance explains why creativity often blossoms when you're relaxed, daydreaming, or just before sleep. The brain's ability to switch modes, from razor-sharp analysis to open-ended invention, is what makes human thought both practical and profoundly imaginative, capable of engineering rockets and composing symphonies with the same neural canvas. Eureka moments come from unusual synchronization of brain waves. The sudden flash of insight, the aha or eureka moment, feels like magic. But neuroscience shows it arises from a shift in brainwave patterns. Just before a breakthrough, the brain often enters a burst of gamma activity, a rhythm associated with high integration across distant regions. These waves allow connections to form between ideas that previously seemed unrelated. It's as if the brain suddenly harmonizes, producing clarity from chaos. Such moments are unpredictable but can be encouraged by relaxation, play, or stepping away from the problem. That's why solutions often appear in the shower, on a walk, or in a dream. The insight feels sudden, but in reality, your brain has been working beneath awareness, quietly assembling the puzzle. When the synchronization finally locks into place, the solution surges into consciousness, a neural spark that feels like a gift from nowhere. Your brain builds entirely new pathways when you learn something. Every time you learn a skill, memorize a fact, or practice a movement, your brain changes. Neurons reach out to form new synapses, strengthening the pathways that support the behavior. Over time, repeated use makes these circuits more efficient, as if the brain is laying down a well-worn trail through a forest. This physical remodeling is called neuroplasticity, and it underlies all growth and learning. Remarkably, even simple repetition, like practicing scales on a piano or rehearsing vocabulary, leaves behind new structures in the brain. These pathways can expand or shrink depending on use. Use it or lose it is literally true for neural circuits. The process never stops, continuing into old age, though more gradually. Each lesson you absorb rewires you, leaving permanent traces in the architecture of your mind, shaping who you are and who you are still becoming. Stress can physically shrink parts of the brain. While short bursts of stress can sharpen focus and prepare the body for action, chronic stress takes a toll on the brain. Prolonged exposure to stress hormones like cortisol can shrink the hippocampus, a region critical for memory and learning. It can also weaken connections in the prefrontal cortex, impairing decision-making and emotional regulation. At the same time, stress may enlarge the amygdala, intensifying fear and anxiety responses. This rewiring creates a cycle in which stress makes the brain more vulnerable to further stress. The good news is that the brain is resilient. Practices like mindfulness, exercise, and social connection can reverse some of these changes, restoring balance. Stress literally reshapes the mind, but so does recovery. It is a powerful reminder that mental states are not abstract clouds hovering above the brain, but biological forces carving pathways into its very structure. Meditation can thicken the brain regions linked to calm and focus. Meditation may feel like simply sitting quietly, but inside the brain, profound changes unfold. Brain scans show that regular meditation can increase the thickness of the prefrontal cortex, improving attention and emotional regulation. It also enhances connectivity in networks related to empathy and compassion, while reducing activity in the amygdala, softening stress and reactivity. Long-term practitioners often show structural growth in gray matter density, particularly in regions tied to self-awareness and perspective-taking. These changes occur even in beginners after just weeks of practice, proving that the benefits are not limited to lifetimes of devotion. In a world of noise and constant stimulation, meditation offers a way to literally reshape the brain toward calm. The quiet repetition of breath and awareness is enough to sculpt new circuits, showing that peace of mind is not just a feeling but a skill your brain can grow. Extreme meditation masters can control their body temperature with thought. In the high Himalayas, monks practicing advanced meditation techniques have been observed drying wet sheets draped over their shoulders in freezing temperatures, using only body heat generated by thought. Scientists studying this phenomenon have found that certain meditation practices can influence the autonomic nervous system, regulating heart rate, blood pressure, and even temperature. Brain scans show unusual patterns of activity during these states, suggesting that years of disciplined practice can unlock access to bodily processes usually considered automatic. While few reach this level of mastery, the experiments reveal the astonishing reach of the mind over the body. The idea that focused thought alone can warm the flesh in icy winds feels almost superhuman, and yet it emerges from the same human brain we all share. It demonstrates the depth of untapped potential woven quietly into the folds of our minds. Daydreaming activates a special brain network. When your thoughts drift, you are not switching off, you are switching networks. Neuroscientists call it the default mode network, a constellation of brain regions that light up when you are at rest, not focused on the outside world. This network weaves together memories, imagines possible futures, and explores scenarios in a kind of inner simulation. Far from being idle, daydreaming is essential for creativity, problem-solving, and even empathy. It is during these moments of quiet drift that your brain knits experiences into stories, forming the narrative of your life. The wandering mind is not a distraction from reality, but an expansion on it, testing paths you have not yet walked. So the next time your attention slips, remember that your brain is busy in its own theater, painting landscapes, rehearsing futures, and weaving the fabric of your inner world. Memory is rewritten every time you recall it. We often imagine memory as a video archive, faithfully storing past events. But neuroscience reveals that memory is dynamic. Each time you recall an event, your brain reconstructs it from scattered fragments across different regions. In the process, details can be altered, forgotten, or even unintentionally replaced. This phenomenon, called reconsolidation, means that memory is less like a file and more like a story retold, changing subtly with each telling. It explains why eyewitness testimony can be unreliable or why cherished memories shift with time. But it also allows memories to be updated, softening trauma or reshaping learning. In a sense, the past is always alive, being rewritten in the present. Every memory you revisit is not a static recording but a living narrative, adapted to who you are now, proving that your sense of history is itself a work of the imagination. Traumatic memories can alter the brain's physical structure. Severe trauma does not only haunt the mind, it imprints itself in the brain's anatomy. Post-traumatic stress disorder is associated with shrinkage of the hippocampus, heightened activity in the amygdala, and weakened control from the prefrontal cortex. These changes explain why traumatic memories can feel vivid, intrusive, and emotionally overwhelming. The brain essentially shifts into a state of hypervigilance, as if danger is always near. But research also shows that with therapy, support, and time, some of these structural changes can heal. With the hippocampus regaining volume and regulation pathway strengthening. Trauma reshapes the brain, but recovery reshapes it too. Each pathway altered by fear can be counterbalanced by new circuits of safety and resilience. The scars of trauma are written into neural tissue, but so too are the patterns of healing, a testament to the brain's enduring capacity for renewal. The brain can erase memories under certain conditions. Memory feels permanent, but in reality, it is fragile and malleable. Scientists have found that under certain conditions, particularly when memories are reactivated and enter a flexible state called reconsolidation, they can be altered, even erased. In animal studies, specific drugs given at the right moment can block a memory from being stored again, effectively deleting it. Though this research is still early, it raises both hopeful and troubling possibilities. The ability to weaken traumatic memories for therapy, or the risk of manipulating memory itself. Even without drugs, the brain sometimes erases memories naturally, pruning unused connections to make room for new learning. Forgetting is not a flaw but a feature, a way to keep the mind uncluttered. It shows that memory is not etched in stone but written in sand, always subject to being reshaped, softened, or washed away entirely. Scientists can sometimes trigger lost memories with electrical stimulation. In certain neurosurgeries, when electrodes stimulate specific brain regions, patients suddenly recall vivid, long-forgotten memories. A woman may hear her childhood piano lessons as if they're happening again, or a man may relive standing on a familiar street corner decades earlier. These moments are not vague impressions but detailed sensory recreations, complete with sounds, smells, and emotions. The effect suggests that even memories long thought forgotten may still exist in hidden neural traces, waiting for the right spark to bring them alive. This discovery reveals the depth of the brain storage, a vast archive far larger than daily awareness can access. While science is far from being able to summon memories at will, these glimpses show that your past is not gone but slumbering, embedded in the folds of the mind like books on an endless shelf, waiting to be reopened. Memories can be strengthened during sleep with subtle cues. During sleep, your brain doesn't just rest, it consolidates memory, weaving the day's experiences into lasting form. Experiments show that memories can even be nudged stronger with subtle cues. In one study, participants learned a set of word pairs or spatial tasks while a specific sound or smell played. Later, when the same cue was softly presented during deep sleep, those memories became more robust, as if the brain rehearsed them unconsciously. This phenomenon, called targeted memory reactivation, highlights how the sleeping brain is actively at work, sorting, strengthening, and sometimes reshaping the day's information. It suggests that learning does not stop when you close your eyes. In fact, sleep may be the most important stage of all. The idea that a faint whiff of a scent or a soft tone can reach into the dreaming brain and solidify memory is both eerie and wondrous. The brain replays experiences like a movie during dreams. While you sleep, your brain is far from idle. Neurons fire in patterns that resemble waking activity, as if replaying the day's experiences like scenes from a film. In animals, scientists have recorded brain cells firing in the same sequence during sleep that they did while the animal explored a maze, compressed like a time-lapse replay. In humans, dreams often echo fragments of recent life, stitched into surreal narratives. This replay is thought to help consolidate memory, reinforcing learning by reactivating the neural circuits involved. It's as though the brain is editing a movie of your life, splicing together the keyframes and saving them to long-term storage. The result is both practical and poetic. The dream world serves as rehearsal and archive, taking the raw footage of waking and crafting it into something lasting, a record etched into the mind's hidden vaults. Dreams may be the brain's way of cleaning and reorganizing itself. Why do we dream? One intriguing idea is that dreams serve as the brain's nighttime housekeeping. By weaving strange stories, the brain may be testing associations, pruning weak connections, and strengthening useful ones. This process could explain why dreams often mix unrelated images or people. The brain is reorganizing memory networks, trying out combinations, discarding some, and keeping others. The bizarre narratives are a side effect of this deeper work. Some researchers also suggest that dreaming helps regulate emotion, replaying stressful events in safer symbolic forms. Whatever their exact purpose, dreams appear to be more than idle fantasy. They are the brain's nocturnal workshop, tuning its circuits, washing away the clutter of the day, and reorganizing the mind for clarity. The surreal landscapes of dreams may be the visible trace of a hidden process, the brain quietly tending to itself in the dark. Sleep helps wash away waste from the brain. During the day, your brain produces metabolic waste, including proteins linked to disorders like Alzheimer's. At night, something remarkable happens. The brain cells shrink slightly, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to wash through the tissue, clearing away debris. This glymphatic system is like a nightly rinse cycle, flushing toxins and restoring balance. The process is so effective that a single night of poor sleep measurably increases waste buildup. This discovery highlights sleep's vital role not only in memory and mood, but in physical brain health. Just as the body needs rest to heal, the brain needs sleep to cleanse itself. When you drift into slumber, you're not only recharging energy but also bathing the mind in its own silent tide, sweeping away what is no longer needed and leaving behind a refreshed, clearer landscape for the next day's thoughts to grow upon. The brain shrinks slightly during the day and re-expands at night. Your brain subtly changes size over the course of a single day. MRI scans reveal that the brain shrinks slightly during waking hours, compressed by the demands of activity, and then re-expands during sleep as it recovers. This rhythm reflects the ebb and flow of fluid, cellular activity, and metabolic processes, a daily tide within the skull. The changes are tiny, fractions of a percent, but significant enough to be measurable. It may be one reason why you feel foggy after long days and refreshed after rest. Your brain has literally shifted shape, contracting under the strain of wakefulness and swelling gently back during slumber. This cycle reminds us that the brain is not static stone but living tissue, constantly in motion, pulsing with fluids, expanding and shrinking like the tide, following the quiet rhythms of day and night. Your brain keeps working while you sleep. Far from switching off, your brain stays busy when you sleep. It sorts through memories, regulates hormones, fine-tunes immune responses, and rehearses skills learned during the day. Certain stages of sleep, like REM, are especially active, with brain activity resembling wakefulness. This hidden labor explains why sleep deprivation so quickly affects mood, memory, and health. It also explains the flashes of creativity or sudden clarity that sometimes greet you upon waking. The brain has been solving problems in the background. In this sense, sleep is less about shutting down and more about shifting modes, from external engagement to internal maintenance. Every night, as the body lies still, the brain is a quiet workshop, repairing, reinforcing, and reorganizing. It reminds us that rest is not idleness but an essential part of being alive, where the unseen work of the brain prepares you for another day. The brain produces psychedelic states on its own, even without drugs. Psychedelic visions are not confined to substances. The brain can generate them spontaneously. Under conditions like sensory deprivation, fasting, meditation, or even illness, people sometimes report vivid geometric patterns, lights, or mystical experiences. Scientists suggest these arise when normal brain rhythms become disrupted, allowing deeper networks to spill chaotic imagery into consciousness. Remarkably, these experiences often involve the same neural pathways engaged by psychedelic drugs, showing that the potential for such visions exists in everyone. The kaleidoscope of the mind is built in, waiting under the surface. This may explain why cultures across history have described visions during trance, prayer, or near-death experiences. The brain itself carries the seeds of altered states, capable of producing worlds of light, color, and meaning without any external catalyst. The capacity for wonder, woven into neural tissue, is part of what makes consciousness so strange and profound. Some people can control their dreams with lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming is the rare ability to realize you are dreaming while the dream continues. With practice, some people can even shape the dream, flying through imagined skies or speaking with dream characters. Neuroscientists find that lucid dreaming involves unusual activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain linked to self-awareness and control. Training methods, like reality checks during the day or setting intentions before sleep, can increase the likelihood of lucid dreams. These experiences feel astonishingly real, blending the vividness of dreaming with the clarity of waking. For some, lucid dreaming is simply playful exploration. For others, it is a tool for creativity, therapy, or overcoming nightmares. The idea that you can awaken inside your own dream, steering the story of the night, shows just how thin the boundary is between reality and imagination within the brain. Your brain holds more connections than all the stars in the Milky Way. Inside your skull is a network so vast it defies comprehension. The human brain contains roughly 86 billion neurons, and each of those can form thousands of connections called synapses. Altogether, the number of connections reaches into the hundreds of trillions, more than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy. These connections are not static. They strengthen, weaken, form, and dissolve based on experience. Every thought, every memory, every sensation is a pattern of activity flowing across this staggering web. It is an architecture that rivals the cosmos in complexity, yet it fits inside the curve of your skull. The brain is not merely an organ, it is a universe of possibilities, a living constellation of signals and pathways, constantly reshaping itself, holding within it the entire scope of your inner life. Hallucinations can be triggered by sensory deprivation. When the brain is cut off from external input for long enough, it begins to generate its own. People placed in isolation tanks or dark, soundproof rooms often report vivid hallucinations, shapes, voices, even full scenes, after just a few hours. This happens because the brain is built to process information. When there is none, it fills the void with patterns drawn from memory and imagination. The hallucinations are not signs of madness, but of the brain's relentless drive to make sense of the world. Deprived of stimuli, it creates its own reality. These experiences reveal how much of what we call perception is constructed internally. The world we see is not simply reflected. It is assembled, interpreted, and sometimes invented by the brain. Even in silence and darkness, the mind insists on filling the emptiness with light and sound. Electrical brain stimulation can trigger vivid, long-lost memories. During certain types of brain surgery, when tiny electrical currents are applied to specific regions, patients sometimes experience sudden, vivid memories. A person might hear a song from childhood, see a forgotten room, or relive a conversation from years ago, all with startling clarity. These aren't vague recollections but fully formed sensory experiences, complete with emotions and details. The phenomenon suggests that memories are not truly lost but stored in dormant neural circuits, waiting for the right activation. It reveals the brain as a vast library, far deeper than conscious recall can reach. Most of these memories remain inaccessible in daily life, hidden beneath layers of newer experiences. But the fact that they can be awakened with a gentle pulse of electricity shows that the past lives on within us, encoded in tissue, silent but never fully gone. The placebo effect is real and changes brain chemistry. Give someone a sugar pill and tell them it's medicine, and sometimes they genuinely improve. This is the placebo effect, a measurable physiological response triggered by belief alone. Brain scans show that placebos can activate the same regions as actual drugs, releasing natural painkillers like endorphins and dopamine. The effect is not imaginary, it's biological. Expectations shape reality at a neural level. While placebos work best for subjective symptoms like pain or nausea, they demonstrate the profound connection between mind and body. Belief can alter chemistry, ease suffering, and even accelerate healing. Interestingly, the placebo effect persists even when people know they're taking a placebo, as long as they trust the process. It's a reminder that the brain is not a passive observer but an active participant in health, shaping outcomes through the power of expectation. Pain is processed differently depending on context and expectation. Pain is not just a signal from the body, it's an interpretation by the brain. The same injury can feel more or less painful depending on context, mood, and expectation. Soldiers in battle sometimes report feeling no pain from severe wounds until the danger passes. Athletes push through discomfort that would stop others. This happens because the brain filters and modulates pain signals based on perceived threat and focus. Neuroscience shows that regions like the prefrontal cortex and anterior cingulate cortex play key roles in shaping pain intensity. Expectations also matter. If you believe something will hurt, it often does, even if the stimulus is mild. Conversely, distraction, meditation, or reassurance can reduce pain significantly. Pain is real, but it is also negotiable, shaped by the mind's interpretation. Understanding this gives us power, not to eliminate suffering, but to influence how we experience it. Emotions are not just feelings, they involve the entire body. When you feel fear, your heart races. When you feel joy, your chest opens. Emotions are not confined to the brain. They ripple through the entire body. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio calls this the somatic marker hypothesis, suggesting that emotions are deeply tied to bodily sensations. The brain reads signals from the heart, gut, muscles, and skin, weaving them into what we call feelings. This is why breathing exercises can calm anxiety, or why posture affects mood. The body and brain are in constant conversation, shaping emotional experience together. Emotions are not abstract mental states. They are embodied events, felt as much in the flesh as in the mind. This interconnection means that caring for the body, through movement, rest, or touch, can profoundly influence emotional well-being. Mind and body are not separate realms but one integrated system, dancing in tandem. Mirror neurons help us feel what others feel. When you watch someone smile, certain neurons in your brain fire as if you were smiling yourself. These are called mirror neurons, and they allow us to internally simulate the actions and emotions of others. This neural mirroring is the foundation of empathy, helping us understand intentions, share feelings, and connect socially. It's why yawns are contagious, why watching someone in pain makes you wince, and why emotions can spread through a crowd. Mirror neurons blur the line between self and other, creating a kind of neural resonance. They may also play a role in learning. Watching someone perform a task activates the same circuits as doing it yourself. This discovery has profound implications for understanding autism, social bonding, and even culture. Our brains are wired not just for individual survival but for connection, constantly reflecting and responding to the inner lives of those around us. Your sense of time can be distorted by the brain. Time is not fixed. It bends and stretches depending on your mental state. In moments of danger, time seems to slow down. During flow states or deep focus, hours can pass in what feels like minutes. This happens because the brain processes time based on the density of experience. Novel, emotionally charged moments create more memories, making time feel elongated in retrospect. Routine, by contrast, compresses time. The more familiar and automatic your days, the faster they seem to pass. Neuroscientists believe the brain uses dopamine and attention to construct our sense of duration. When you're bored, you're hyper-aware of time, so it drags. When you're engaged, awareness fades and time flies. This malleability reveals that time, like so much else, is a construct of the mind, shaped by chemistry, attention, and meaning. Bilingual brains are structurally different from monolingual ones. People who speak more than one language show measurable differences in brain structure. Bilingual individuals often have denser gray matter in regions involved in language processing, executive control, and attention. Switching between languages requires constant mental juggling, strengthening the brain's ability to filter distractions and manage competing information. This cognitive workout appears to delay the onset of dementia and improve problem-solving skills. Interestingly, the earlier someone learns a second language, the more pronounced these structural changes become. But even learning later in life can reshape the brain. Bilingualism is more than a skill. It's a form of neural training, building flexibility and resilience into the brain's architecture. Every word learned in another language is a new pathway carved, a new connection made, proof that the brain remains endlessly adaptable. Reading rewires the brain in ways evolution never planned. Humans have only been reading for a few thousand years, not nearly long enough for evolution to design specialized brain circuits for it. Yet we read with astonishing fluency. How? The brain repurposes older systems, particularly those used for recognizing faces and objects, to decode written symbols. Brain scans show that a region called the visual word form area becomes specialized for reading through experience. This area didn't exist for reading originally. It adapted. The process demonstrates neuroplasticity at its finest. Every time a child learns to read, their brain undergoes a profound transformation, rewiring ancient circuits for a modern purpose. Reading is a cultural invention, but it leaves a biological trace. The fact that the brain can teach itself to translate abstract shapes into meaning, sound, and story is a testament to its extraordinary flexibility. Every thought you have leaves a physical trace in the brain. Thinking is not ephemeral. Every thought you form alters the brain in some small way. When neurons fire together repeatedly, the connections between them strengthen, a principle neuroscientists call neurons that fire together, wire together. Over time, habitual thoughts carve out preferred pathways, making certain patterns easier to activate. This is why practiced musicians think in melodies, mathematicians in equations, and worriers in loops of anxiety. The thoughts you repeat shape the structure of your mind. They leave behind physical traces, thicker synapses, stronger networks, denser gray matter. This means your mental habits are not abstract, they are biological. What you think about changes who you are, literally rewiring the brain with each passing day. It is both empowering and sobering. You are, in a very real sense, sculpting your own mind with the chisel of attention. The brain can change its structure in response to injury. When the brain is damaged by stroke, trauma, or disease, it doesn't simply accept defeat. In many cases, it reorganizes itself. Healthy regions can take over functions that were lost, forming new pathways to compensate for the injury. A person who loses speech after a stroke may slowly regain it as other areas learn to support language. A child with early brain damage may develop nearly normal function because their young, flexible brain rewires around the problem. This process, called neural reorganization, is one of the most hopeful aspects of neuroscience. While recovery is not always complete, the brain's capacity to adapt after injury is far greater than once believed. Rehabilitation, therapy, and even mental practice can guide this rewiring. helping the brain find new routes to lost abilities. It is a testament to resilience, proof that even in the face of damage, the brain seeks balance, function, and renewal. The brain is the most complex object we know of in the universe. With its 86 billion neurons, hundreds of trillions of connections, and layers of chemical, electrical, and structural complexity, the human brain is the most intricate system we have ever encountered. It generates consciousness, stores a lifetime of memories, produces language, art, and science, and somehow creates the experience of being you. No computer, no galaxy, no molecule comes close to matching its intricacy. And yet, despite centuries of study, we are only beginning to understand how it works. We can map its regions, trace its pathways, and measure its signals, but the full picture remains elusive. How does matter become mind? How do neurons create meaning? These questions linger at the edge of knowledge. The brain is both the tool we use to explore the universe and the greatest mystery within it. In studying the brain, we are attempting the ultimate recursion, a universe trying to understand itself. The brain never stops changing, even in your final breath. Neuroplasticity does not end with childhood or even adulthood. The brain continues to adapt, learn, and rewire itself throughout life. Even in old age, new experiences can forge new connections. Learning a language, playing music, forming relationships, all leave lasting imprints. While the pace of change may slow, the capacity for transformation never fully disappears. This means that growth is always possible. You are never too old to learn, to heal, or to change. The brain remains a living canvas, responsive to effort, experience, and intention. And remarkably, this process continues until the very end. In the final moments of life, the brain is still firing, still processing, still weaving together the threads of existence. From your first breath to your last, the brain is in motion, an ever-shifting landscape, a quiet miracle folding and unfolding within the silence of the skull. The brain is you. Everything you have ever thought, felt, remembered, or imagined has arisen from this soft, wrinkled organ. Your fears and hopes, your loves and losses, your sense of self, all of it lives here, encoded in electrical pulses and chemical whispers. The brain is not just a part of you. In a profound sense, it is you. And yet, it remains mysterious even to itself. You are the universe looking back at itself through the lens of 3 pounds of tissue. The brain has given rise to language, art, science, and civilization. It has pondered stars, split atoms, and written symphonies. And now, as you read these words, it is contemplating its own existence, marveling at its own complexity. This is the quiet miracle of being human, that within the folds of the brain lies not only the machinery of survival, but the spark of wonder, the capacity for love, and the longing to understand. The brain is fragile, finite, and astonishingly beautiful. It is the seat of consciousness, the organ of thought, and the home of everything you are. Treat it gently. Nourish it with rest, challenge it with curiosity, and honor the fact that within your skull resides one of the universe's most extraordinary creations. And now, as the journey through the landscapes of the mind comes to a close, may you rest easy knowing that even as you sleep, your brain continues its quiet work, dreaming, healing, and preparing you for tomorrow. Sleep well.